Naruto's author couldn't sleep for days when it was time to conclude the pain arc. Why, you ask? Well, according to Kishimoto himself, no matter how many times he tossed and turned in his bed, sweating buckets out of anxiety and being unable to sleep at night, no matter how hard he tried or how many weeks passed by, Kishimoto simply couldn't decide who was right or wrong between the main character, Naruto, and the target of this video, Pain. In fact, a major reason why he ultimately chose to let Naruto win and not Pain is because Naruto is a shonen anime, which means that it's a show intended for younger audiences. In such shows, themes such as hope, friendship, and peace must always be preserved, all of which, of course, embody Naruto's ideology. All that aside, just what is so complex about this character, Pain's ideology, that even the author himself had no clue whether the guy was actually even a villain or not? Well, if that's the question that's been bugging you lately, then everything I'm about to say next is the most well-informed answer on Pain's philosophy that you'll ever find elsewhere. Keep listening, fellas. Before jumping to judgments and conclusions about Pain's philosophy, though, we might as well have a thorough look at his sad backstory first. You know, to understand where he's coming from, and why he turned out the way he did, etc., etc., etc. Long story short, both Pain's parents, as well as his childhood best friend Yahiko, ended up dead, whether directly or indirectly at the hands of shinobi from the Hidden Leaf Village. Heck, even Pain's many friends and comrades in the Akatsuki ended up dead as well. A group Pain originally created alongside his friends, Yahiko and Konan, in hopes of bringing peace to the shinobi world through non-violent methods. Anyways, all those deaths and loss forced Nagato to suffer through so much emotional devastation and trauma that he finally renamed himself as Pain. Especially Yahiko's death, which taught him 4 of the most important lessons. First, Pain realized that hatred and vengeance aren't the answer, as they always give birth to even more hatred and vengeance, triggering a vicious and never-ending cycle of hatred. Second, that everlasting true peace simply doesn't exist. The third lesson being that mutual pain and suffering are necessary in order for people to understand, relate, empathize with, and forgive one another. Last but not least, absolute change in the shinobi world can only be brought by absolute force, by essentially becoming a godlike being himself. Alright then, now let's explore those 4 lessons in detail, shall we? The cycle of hatred has been hinted at plenty of times throughout the Naruto series. In fact, it was Jiraiya-sensei who first introduced the concept to both his students, Naruto and also Nagato. The fact that both Naruto and Pain had the same shinobi teacher, Jiraiya, and were also considered the child of prophecy at one point or another by their teacher. Kishimoto sure was cooking back then, wasn't he? Anyways, coming back to the cycle of hatred,
even I'm able to see that there's entirely too much hate in this shinobi world of ours.
There's too much hate?
I've always wanted to do something about all of this hatred. I'm just not quite sure how to go about it as of yet. But I truly believe that eventually the day will come when all people will understand one another and live in harmony.
Boy, it sounds kinda complicated to me.
And if I can't find the solution to this problem, then perhaps I'll entrust you to find it instead. Eh, Naruto?
Yes, sir! I can't turn down a request from my master, can I, for Purvy's sake?
Naruto may not have understood Jiraiya's message back then, but Pain most certainly did. He realizes quickly that whether it's out of past hatred for one another, or fear and suspicion towards each other's motives, one way or another, this endless cycle of an eye for an eye forever keeps on spinning.
Justice that I have delivered against the Leaf Village is no different from what you are trying to do to me. Everyone feels the same pain when losing something dear. You and I have both experienced that pain. You strive for your justice, and I strive for mine. We're both just ordinary men who have been driven to seek vengeance in the name of justice. And if one comes to call vengeance justice, such justice will only breed further vengeance and trigger a vicious cycle of hatred. Right now, we live in such a cycle. I know the past and can foretell our future. It is the same as our history. So we believe that human beings simply cannot understand each other, and they never will. The shinobi world of ours is ruled by hatred, and hatred alone. However,
Alright, I've been saying this again and again and again that Pain wishes for worldwide peace, right? However, begs the question, what kind of peace are we talking about here? Well, if you ask Pain himself, there is no such thing as true peace. As long as we live in this cursed world, peace is impossible. I strongly agree because, as the saying goes, the only thing humans learn from history is that we learn nothing from history. Forever peace isn't possible because it's in human nature to forget past lessons as well as to seek conflict as a way to defend against boredom. However, although everlasting peace isn't possible, everlasting suffering isn't either. Pain knows that, of course. He realizes that everlasting true peace is nothing more than a fantasy, which is why, following logic, he decides to go with the next best option, that is, temporary peace between periods of cruelty and war.
But you see, that is why I formed the Akatsuki. To break the cycle of hatred. I can put an end to it, but I need the Nine Tails. I must have his power in order to achieve that goal. I'll use the power of all 9 beasts to create a tailed beast weapon, many times stronger than the one that flattened this village. Strong enough to wipe out an entire nation instantly.
A tailed beast weapon?
I'm going to show the world what true pain is, and stop all wars with the terror that pain will inspire. I shall lead the world down the road to stability and to peace.
But if you do achieve peace like that, then the whole thing is nothing but a big lie!
Human beings are not the most intelligent of creatures. This is the only way that peace can be achieved. Of course, after several decades, that pain too will eventually fade with time. It will no longer act as a deterrent. Humanity will return to war again. This time, they themselves will use the tailed beast weapon against one another and reconfirm what true pain is.
And then for a time, peace will briefly be restored again. In the course of this endless cycle of hatred begetting more hatred, this unbearable pain will give rise to momentary peace. That is my dream and my goal.
Feel pain, accept pain, and know pain. Those who do not understand true pain can never understand true peace. Basically, pain's all about pain. Of course, that's not to say that pain enjoys torturing others without purpose. Instead, he does it for the greater good, so that people may come to empathize with one another's pain and suffering, because in his eyes, that is the only true path to peace, understanding, wisdom, and salvation. And maybe, just maybe, he's right. Lastly, upon Yahiko's death, Pain realized that only by wielding absolute strength can one force humans to listen and calm down and stop meaninglessly hating and killing one another. He recalled and was inspired by what his late friend once said long ago. If this world will not change, then I will become the god of this world and change it. This is exactly where Pain decided to stop playing Mr. Nice and start focusing on bending the entire world to his will through absolute power. I've grown from a man to a god. Anybody who's watched even just a few arcs of Naruto knows that one might sooner defeat Madara Uchiha in a physical battle than shut Naruto Uzumaki up in a tongue battle. That's simply how good Naruto's talk no jutsu and his silver-smooth tongue really are. Take Zabuza, Konan, Obito Uchiha, and later even Pain himself. They all fell victim to Naruto's righteous preaching and his lectures about morality, and thus converted to the good side sooner or later. However, against Pain, at least initially, Naruto's talk no jutsu failed miserably. In fact, it backfired, since Pain started giving moral and philosophical lectures of his own to ultimately shut Naruto up, which is exactly what happened. For the first time ever, Naruto had no philosophical reply to debate his enemy and was thus practically forced to zip it.
So, Naruto, how would you confront this hatred in order to create peace? I want to know what your answer is.
I don't know. I don't have an answer.
This is when Naruto finally understood just how difficult it truly is to forgive someone, especially when that someone has stolen your loved ones from you. Previously, he always held Sasuke in contempt for being consumed by revenge for his clan against his brother, Itachi. However, in hating Pain so badly for having exterminated his entire village and all his friends inside, but later still choosing to forgive him anyway. Between those two things, Naruto grew up a lot. He overcame generational trauma, escaped the cycle of hatred, and ultimately became the wise and kind Hokage we now know him to be. In fact, being so impressed by Naruto's explosive spiritual development, Pain even generously chose to revive all the Leaf villagers he exterminated previously, even at the cost of his own life, as a personal reward for Naruto. When comparing philosophies, both Naruto and Nagato wished to uphold their sensei's teachings by erasing all hatred and bringing peace to the shinobi world. However, the ways both went about trying to bring that peace were as different as night and day, of course. Naruto advocated for peace via communication, diplomacy, and forging bonds of friendship, whereas Pain adopted a more fascist and tyrannical approach. Can't blame him. After all, he did found the Akatsuki, which was originally intended to serve and advocate for the peace of this world as a non-violent organization. Too bad. Tragedy occurred. People died. Friends died. And even his bestia Yahiko died. And that's how Pain finally lost hope in friendship and decided to become a god himself, bringing peace through fear and force. Same as Light Yagami's Kira approach in Death Note. I've grown from a man to a god, Pain. However, let me ask you this. Is peace derived from force and fear even peace? Or is it merely a concentration camp, one that steals the free will of its prisoners against their will? Is that really true salvation? Or is it merely slavery disguised as salvation? True peace, I'd say, is what Naruto achieved alongside Sasuke after the Fourth Great Shinobi War. Naruto's version of peace didn't rely on absolute power to scare everybody else into temporary obedience and fearful submission, but rather achieved such an ideal state of the world through friendship, cooperation, diplomacy, compromise, and most importantly, mutual empathy and understanding of one another's pain, and also forgiveness instead. In the end, both of Jiraiya's students desired the same peace. However, where Pain was all about good ends justifying the evil means, Naruto didn't agree. He kept believing that it is good means that justify the end, and not the other way around. Ultimately, Pain reminds me very strongly of what Mary Shelley once wrote. No man chooses evil because it is evil. He only mistakes it for happiness, the good he seeks. If anything, Pain's a broken-hearted anti-hero, one who suffered through so much trauma and tragedy that eventually he lost all hope in everything that's good about mankind, and who now goes about doing things forcefully and in his own way as a result. Well, that's all for today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share as well before leaving, my friend.